This is the Charles F. Lewis Natural Area, FKT number 4 for me. Um, did this back in uh, February 6th of 2024. This was the male unsupported FKT. Did it in 53 minutes and 58 seconds. Um, I'm just going to go right into the race report. Uh, it was chilly, but I knew the course would be clear of snow and ice. It was in the 30s. Started later than I was hoping to. Would like to have gotten around there around 2 p.m., not 3:40-ish. That way I have plenty of legit light to hit the trail and enough if I got lost to figure out where to go. Um, I didn't warm up or stretch properly, which was felt right away. Had intention to stretch right, but didn't. As soon as I started running, the cold air hit me and my legs were dying. As the climb started, I really felt it. Did have to walk some of that first 1.5 miles in those steeper sections, like the pitched areas. Um, I feel like I left 5 minutes or so out there, never really fully sent it that day. I was worried about tripping and getting lost since the trail is notorious for both. It's actually not marked very well at all. And you have to be careful because there is a lot of rocks and roots on the trail. Um, I struggled way more than I should have with the climb up to the power line. Though the ground was solid, all run, did hit some rocks. Luckily, didn't trip. Did have to backtrack 3 times. I went the wrong way 3 times for about 20 yards each time and had to backtrack. Even knowing the trail, it's hard to read and follow, which makes it a great FKT. Just because you have to pay attention the whole time, your footing and where you're going. Um, I was going too fast while watching my footing and didn't make the curves in the trail. It happens a lot on the trail while going fast. The yellow blazes were a lot farther apart than I remember. I was also breaking in new trail shoes today, well, that day, which may not have been smart. Did feel a lot more confident once I hit the power line and it leveled off and basically hitting the descent rest of the way um, from the start of the 1.5 miles up the hill. Um, Once you get to that power line, the rest does feel like you're going down with a couple rolling hills in between. Um, Running allowed me to recoup my energy and recover. There was a few trees down, nothing too bad. It was more the trees whose branches went over the trail, covering up where to go was the problem, um, than actually tripping or slowing my momentum down. Um, just because of how they seem to lay lengthwise on the trail and not just across, they caused a lot of hesitation. Thorn bushes were still there in their normal spots. Was hoping that they wouldn't be as tight on the trail, but they were. Did get some scratches. Where they logged it out, they put up some fencing. I did not know that. So you have to go through gates to run on the trail, which those gates did throw me off as to where to run, but no big deal. They didn't add any more blazes to logged area, so you have to really try your best to follow the trail, like the worn path. Um, the boulder area went way better than I expected. I guess since I didn't have to worry about snakes, I was able to go a lot faster. Even the last ascent and ridgeline, the last point 0.4-ish, tenth wasn't bad today. Footing was really sturdy, so I could go faster. Creek was high, so feet did get wet as I went across. Not a big deal since it was only really a tenth to go. Came back on to the entrance and touched the rock in the parking lot. No wildlife today, thankfully. Overall, wasn't a bad day. I could do better. There's room for people to attempt it and knock out the time down some if they practice first knowing the actual course. Otherwise, it will be hard, and that's part of the point of this FKT. It's not easy, and it gives you a good mix of terrain and conditions, which are never the same. And lastly, hard to navigate without proper knowledge of the trail. Um, this trail is not too far from me. I'd say maybe 10 minutes from my house on 403. It's actually right across from Laurel Highlands Hiking Trail, the power line. It's, we'll say, a mile and a half into the trail from mile 70. once you hit that power line, it's the one that, if you look across the top of that, that's actually Charles F. Lewis Trail. Um, but this trail itself is pretty technical and rocky. You do have to pay attention the whole time, your footing and where you're going. Again, as I mentioned in the recap, the blazes are few and far in between. The trail doesn't get a lot of use, so it's not as worn as you would like to be able to read the trail where to go. Um, so you do sort of have to practice on it beforehand to actually know what to expect, where to attack, where to pull back, and all that fun stuff if you ever want to attempt this FKT. Um, but it's really good training grounds. If you do the counterclockwise direction, which is what I recommend, the first 1.5 miles is all uphill. It's about like 1,200 feet. It's got a couple switchbacks, but it just feels straight up the whole time. And that first half mile is pretty rocky and rooty. Um, it just sucks. I'm going to be honest with you. And if you go clockwise, you hit more big boulders and rocks, and you're going to go a lot slower clockwise than you will counterclockwise. Um, Either way is just as hard. If you go clockwise, though, your feet are going to get wet right away. Um, anyway, I like this trail for training because it's 5 miles and about like 1,400 feet of gain total. Um, so pretty significant, and it gives you a lot of good technical trail running practice. I think on this FKT, I got 4.89 miles, actually in 11 minutes and 2 second pace, 1,300 feet and 24 feet of gain. Um, so that's pretty typical for this. So with some of those switchbacks and the way the rollingness, and even in the boulder area, you're not going to get a true 5 miles. And the readings are always going to be different depending on your pace. Um, I don't know. It's just one of those things that you should really stretch and warm up before you start out because you're definitely going to feel it right away and you're going to need to be warmed up immediately. Uh, Other than that, I don't know. I got some clips I'm going to add on to the end of this and then some pictures. Um, but to do this FKT, um, when you pull into the parking lot off of 403 there's some boulders in the park, like right there in the parking lot by the signage, like the Charles F. Lewis sign that you see behind me in this picture. You got to touch one of those boulders as you start your watch and touch it as you come back. It's a good way to signify the start and finish of the course. The course goes like right in between two rocks, so if you want to touch one of those, makes more sense. Um, and just be cognizant of when you're on this trail itself, there is a lot of wildlife. We do see bears. It is a natural area. A couple years ago, I actually was running this, and there was a tree across the trail, and I stepped on the tree to jump over it. And here there was a bee's nest in the tree, and I got stung a couple times. And there's boulder areas. Uh, there is some snakes in there. Just general wildlife. I saw a porcupine. There's always deer, stuff like that. Squirrel. Um, yeah, so just be careful. Um, Trying to think what else to tell you. If you're gonna do this in like the midsummer, early fall, be prepared to get your legs tore up from briar bushes and jagger bushes and stuff like that. It's not really maintained much, um, so you can get ripped to shreds. Um, but this was my Charles F. Lewis first FKT that I did on this trail, um, the male unsupported version. Um, so yeah, check it out. I do have the race course, well, the FKT course, the whole 5 mile loop up online if somebody wants to preview it, because it is a nice area. Um, if you're going to hike it, more so than run it, or if you want to see some wildlife, it is a good place to go. Or if you really want some rough technical, hard running trails in a short amount of time, this is definitely a place to check out. All right, it's February 6th at 3:43 p.m. I'm at Charles Lewis. I'm going to try to set the FKT here in a minute as soon as I put my phone away and stretch. So I'm here. Got my hand on the rock, the starting lines. Oh, we're gonna do this. Got the creek crossing and then we're finished. Ah, fuck it, you can feel it. That's where you go up at. Here we go. FKT number 1 of the year, complete in a second. All right, oh, stop my watch. There we go. Whew. That's the Charles Lewis FKT I just did. I only got 4.89, so 5.9. But again, I would say 4.8 is probably about what you're gonna get, because the way some of the switchbacks and the services. Whew. I'm out here at the Charles F. Lewis Natural Area. I just set the FKT record, my first one of the year. Show you a quick little. This is the creek that you actually cross to finish. You actually follow this like spring up on the hill the whole way. If you watch my video of the course, you'll see it, but it was a little rough. I figured this is February 6th. I started around 3:30ish. I don't know the exact minutes, but I just did it in under 54 minutes, just a couple seconds under. I got like 4.89 miles with like 1,400 feet of gain. It's kind of rough. Your GPS is going to be off a little bit in this because it doesn't have a good signal. So when you're up on the mountain and in the valleys doing the switchbacks, you're really going to get screwed up a little bit elevation and GPS wise. I even went off course like 2 or 3 times and I had to backtrack. Not much, maybe like 20 yards before I realized I was offside. I like backtrack 20 yards to get back on the right course. It's still definitely a lot harder to navigate. It seems like every time I'm here, it's hard to navigate, especially when you're running. That's why I say it's a good FKT, because to knock it down, you have to probably run it a half dozen times to actually know the course, because of the trail markings, like the yellow blazes and stuff. They're non-existent in a lot of places. So you basically have to be a good trail runner and see the worn out spots on the trail, because there's some older orange markings on trees that they blacked out, so it sort of confuses you as well, because they did reroute it a couple years ago a little bit, so it is just confusing overall. But I uploaded the file the other day. I waited a couple days and I set the FKT for other people to do it now, so I'm hoping some people come and try it this summer. You just got to watch for the bees, the snakes. There's a lot of rattlesnakes, different wildlife, and stuff like that. And again, you just have to pay attention. Even your GPX files and stuff aren't going to show you necessarily the right way. So you just have to be on your A game and probably practice a couple times before you actually attempt it. But it's a nice course. It's hard because it's basically uphill the first mile and a half, and then you start downhill, and then you got to, a couple up and downs, and then you finish with this creek crossing for like the last 10, which is nice because you don't get your feet wet at all until the end. That's why I do it counterclockwise, and I tell people to do it counterclockwise. But there are some springs, if it's really wet and rainy, that you'll cross. It's just a hard course overall. And this was like a good attempt for my first FKT of the year. I'm going to try to chase a couple. I'm going to document them as I go. I felt a little rough today. Wasn't really into it. Definitely probably left 5 minutes a time if I really wanted to send it, but I didn't. Just because I didn't want to get hurt and trip because nobody knew I was here. Plus, being early in the year, figured leave some leeway. When the trail conditions maybe get a little bit better, if we can mark the course a little bit better at the turns. Trying to think of anything else. Let's give you another quick view. Nice spring. You got some seats. You got that cool looking ice on that. But it's a nice FKT to attempt. It's hard. It's really tucked in the middle of nowhere, so nobody really knows about this trail because it is a natural area, and I just wanted to do it because it's a nice 5 mile, at least 1,200 feet. You should get at least 1,200 feet, and I would say 4.8 if you're doing it right. So check it out. I also wore new shoes today, was breaking them in, so that slowed me down a little bit, getting as they broke in a little bit. Other than that, I think it was a good day. A couple people on the trail. I didn't see no wildlife, but they did put a new deer fence in that you do have to go through about 3 miles. So you have to go through a gate twice, so be cautious of that. Other than that, that's it.